Szanowni Państwo, czas najwyższy.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time that we open the next part of our today's meeting. Now, the block is technologies to support access to finance and competitiveness of Polish enterprises and development of exports. As the technological partner is ENG SA, let me invite Paweł Kasprzak, Director for Cybersecurity in ENG SA, who will discuss the architecture of digital resilience and how digital bank protects data when ransomware paralyzes the system. So if someone doesn't know what ransomware is, Director will explain it. Well, indeed, you should give a round of applause now. Good afternoon. Okay, and now let me show the presentation. For a while, I'd like to detach you from the world of finance and to invite you to a short journey into the world of technology. So we will discuss how today we can protect ourselves against ransomware attacks and how to protect our data in the era of digital war, which is now really reaching all parts of the world. Let's get back several years, and many of you remember the times where antivirus was enough for protection, firewall in our network was enough, we were safe. Unfortunately, the times have changed. Now these solutions are not enough at all. And now let's have a look how it compares with statistics with the previous year. Unfortunately, over 2.5 increase in ransomware attacks, and statistics will go up every year because it's a kind of profitable business. The ransom required by criminals for encoding your files cost millions of USD. Unfortunately, 40% of ransomware available in the network is available as a service. Even people who are not technologists can buy such a service and attack any company, institution, and to carry out. They may carry out such attack. Well, unfortunately, such regulations and NIS 2, DORA, or the National Cybersecurity System require real activities and not just declarations on paper that we see right now. Now, 98% of the companies affected by the attack experience attempts at violating backup system, and what is more, 80% almost of these attempts were successful. So not only the data were compromised, the data possessed by the companies, but also their backups, which causes us not to have any clean copies at the time of attack. We have no data. We can just finish our business. Several examples. I think most of you will remember a hospital in Kraków, in Częstochowa, in Szczecin. So one of the most important attacks is Mark and Spencer Harrods attack, and they experienced the attack in April this year. The system of orders was attacked, which led to the paralysis of the whole company and transferring from the digital work to paper work. And as far as we know, in the net in July this year, that is several months after the attack, they were able to be back on track, and that is, they would have their digital efficiency. To respond such attack, we have the concept of a digital bunker comprising 5 pillars. That is insulation, kind of physical and logical separation of data from our production environment. The next pillar is verification. So we have implemented AI mechanisms that analyze data that you have in your infrastructure with a view to the ransomware threats known and unknown to us. Then it's non-changeability, that is the blockade of data before any addition and cancellation. So we transform the data into the rock, so it's not possible to modify or eliminate the data. In fact, in addition, we have procedures, that is methods which have been tested in the case of ransomware catastrophe. And the most important thing is the environment that we build inside the digital banker. So the restoration of data and key systems should be as fast as possible, because we care about time. The company cannot have a downtime for several, even days or months. The company must really work and earn money. Now, several words about implementation, because this solution is not backup. It's not the third copy, the third side. It's a very advanced solution that requires a lot of planning work and, first and foremost, know-how and experience. So the first step is first to assess what business processes we have in our key infrastructure. Then we have to select the most critical applications and systems which necessarily must operate after the attack. The next step is that such critical material and configurations are collected by us, and we are ready to start with the implementation and fine-tuning the solution. And finally, tests and procedures that must be prepared in such a way so that to properly implement the solution. Now I will discuss the case study, how it operates. So now we secured 1 petabyte of data. So in fact, how does the solution function? So the factory has its infrastructure backup, and on the other side we have kind of a separated environment of a digital bunker. This isolation is physical connection between one and another environment, and it opens just at the moment of data synchronization. After the synchronization, when the replica is sent, it's closed. The infrastructure would not be seen anymore. Even if the attack is carried out, the attacker would not see that environment. So after synchronization and closing the connection, we go to the analytics, which takes place through AI mechanisms and many different models that work to verify the correctness of data, whether the copy that will be created is clean or whether it's full of anomaly. If there is any anomaly, it's blocked, and we get immediately information what we can do with it further. So we can verify these files, and because sometimes we have false positive. So for example, if someone of you on purpose creates a file and puts a password on it, this anomaly would be detected. But if the copy is clean, then it's put into safe place and the blockade is put on it, and it cannot be eliminated. These files cannot be edited or deleted. What would happen if there is an attack? Here we have two options. First, we may have this restoration in the bunker environment. This gives us a lot of advantages because this kind of recovery is really immediate, and the key services and systems may be launched within several hours. And this solution is, in fact, the safest. There's also another option which is more sensitive to some changes. This is kind of recovery to the basic environment, but by cleaning, after cleaning that environment, then we can have recovery. So now, the case study in ZUS, that is public insurance institution. So what we have achieved, we implemented an innovative solution that secures data against ransomware and malware attacks. It's a kind of comprehensive solution for recovery after attack. Copies are maintained in full isolation, plus all analytics in backup copies. And in fact, the solution changes the way of thinking, because in most cases The reasoning is such that we must be recovered after attack, we must recover some data and files, but in the case of the digital bunker, we must be aware of the fact that we have recovered from zero, that our main infrastructure is really infective and we must clean it. Therefore, with this bunker, we have zero trust. Therefore, the environment is fully isolated, and administrators who manage this environment have just minimum roles, even if their declarations are compromised, the hacker would not be able to go further through that. What is the most important here? Very often a question is asked whether the solution must be expensive. I can answer it might be expensive, but doesn't have to be. Why? Because we use various technologies and various methods of implementing the solutions. It could be on premises, in your server room, or in the cloud. And the most important thing is, and as I've mentioned, this solution is not backup. It's not the third side. The solution requires a lot of work and analysis on how to implement it. And what is the most important thing? It's a golden copy. It's the last line of defense. If the attack is carried out, here in the solution we have security that the data is safe, secure, and we will recover it after the attack. Changing of the way of thinking, so recover from zero, as I've already mentioned, is one of key important things. And finally, one of the important things is the fast recovery after failure, because if you use kind of standard backup, and I assume you all have it, then recovery in that they take hours, weeks, or even months, just in the case of various attacks which are very well known and were carried out worldwide. But here we have the guarantee that recovery will take just several hours within the digital bunker or in the main environment. I guess that's all. Thank you so much. And one more thing I'd like to add, I've forgotten, please contact me if you have any questions. We are present at our stand and I can give you more technical details here. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me a mic. I'd like to thank Director Kasprzak, Director for Cybersecurity from ENG SA, which is our technological partner. And now we will start the second debate. The debate is devoted to technologies to support access to finance and competitiveness of Polish entrepreneurs and the development of exports. So traditionally, I'd like now to arrange the organizers to arrange the stage. The moderator would be Agnieszka Wachnicka, Vice President of Polish Bank Association. So Agnieszka, a question to you, like to every moderator. Will you introduce the guests or shall I do it? Or maybe let's do it like that. So any person called should be first applauded. So now the first person to be invited on stage, it's Agnieszka Wachnicka. And Madam President, please be patient for a while, because now the organizers are bringing chairs. And now let me invite Joanna Erdman, President of the Management of the Cashless Poland Foundation. Let me invite Agnieszka Wolska, Vice President of the Management Board of BNP Paribas Polska SA. Mr. Wojciech Pankowski, Vice President of the Board of KIR. that is Interbank Settlement Chamber, and Mr. Marcin Kościński, Vice President of the Management Board, ING Bank Śląski S.A. Let me invite a member of the Management Board of the BGK, Mr. Leszek Stypułkowski. And let me invite Mr. Jan Szajda, President of the Board, Eden TTT as a limited liability company. Please give him a round of applause. Thank you very much. And now Agnieszka, please take the mic from me. Over to you now. You are the moderator. Madam President, now the floor is yours. Sorry, Madam Chair, the floor is yours. Good afternoon. I'm very happy to welcome you at the panel devoted to technology. So if we discuss the building of the Polish economy competitiveness. Competitiveness means innovation, and innovation means investment, to a large extent investment in technologies. And I guess we have still a problem with it in Poland, and I do hope we will discuss it. And according to most of the surveys, 87% of entrepreneurs in Poland are not innovative companies. So that's why implementing innovation and technologies enables better operations of businesses. But on the other hand, if we discuss exports, we mean exports of high tax, and we have a great deal to do that in that respect. The exports is going up, but in that respect it's just 10% of our exports, so we have to do a lot. So we discuss what to do and how to do it so that the technologies could be better and better available and more willingly applied. Let me start with the banks. So first the question to Madam President Agnieszka Wolska. So how, and if at all, I mean, if we look at the survey, we see that today entrepreneurs are willingly to fund themselves with their own funds rather than credit facilities. That's on average. And recently we had a survey within the project analytical part of Warsaw Banking Institute devoted to financing and we see that entrepreneurs are unwilling to fund with their own funds innovation. Here, they would like some external financing adapted to their needs. Do you really see that entrepreneurs are trying to get some credit or bank financing to implement innovation? Do you see a difference in approach between the companies that try to invest in technologies and innovation compared to those that do not invest, and how banks implement technologies to simplify these procedures of access for entrepreneurs to financing? It's a bit long and complicated question. Let me somehow answer to it in parts. We as BNP Paribas have a franchise for innovative companies. So the whole group several years ago made a decision. The world is changing, and we are the bank of the changing world. That's why we must learn how to finance and provide services to the companies for which innovation is part of their activity. And we do have such franchise, and therefore we carry out surveys on how many there are such companies in Poland, and it's about 11,000 such companies, more or less, that are innovative. These are mainly small companies, startups and scale-ups coming at the beginning of their operations, and there is a group of companies, kind of super developed ones. I wouldn't mention them. It's kind of usual companies, suspects of Polish transformation. That's one thing. Now, financing the small ones, the company which are now growing, have appetite for financing, but in Poland we have structural problems with ensuring capital for growth, and therefore we are working on this TV Innovate PL program, because there's a problem to ensure funding for companies at early stages of their development. The banking law does not make it easy for us, because for 2 years we are unable to, we cannot really do such provide such funding, and these companies have to be credit worthy, and they are not. So what we are trying to do, we have special policy for innovative companies, where we look not only at credit worthiness, but generally at the possibility of scaling revenues and the development of business of such company. And we assess it differently, so that to provide it with some financing, but it is not our major product offered for such companies. Now, as for large companies, here demand is really huge for such financing, and there is no problem for the market to finance such companies. Well, getting back to what kind of innovation we have in lending, I mean, everybody can have some information about it, share such information. What we focus on is acceleration of decision-making process. What we see on the market is kind of instant activity. We have information right now here whether I get the credit facility or not, and therefore any kind of decision-making factors are important. So that's very important for us, and thanks to our activities in that respect, we reduce the time for giving decisions, but it is very much related to data and data quality. Thank you so much. Now I can see that President Kościński is nodding his head. So now I will ask him, what is the situation like in your bank? Do you implement such procedures that facilitate relationships with enterprises, especially micro and SMEs, that are very often got lost in all these procedures? And do you know how to make it easier for them to have this contact with the bank? Let me start with helping all those companies that have this kind of innovation content of technological part. So we have a kind of simple thing here. We analyze whether the company is really based on innovation, whether it's if it's relatively big, we base our opinion on what it has been done, and we analyze its cash flows, because we are a bank. We must do it in a safe way, and we are also an investment fund, not a capital bank. But as for small companies, here the bank could not be a capital investment fund, and financing here is much more risky compared to regular financing. And you mentioned that the small enterprises are unwilling to finance innovative things from their own funds. That's true, I see that. But here, all support funds have a role to play, which support to steer the company in that respect. It's not a role for the bank. If the project is quite small or quite big compared to the scale of activity of the company, or if it's completely a new company, so there is no role for the bank with such support instruments. So what we are trying to do, we try to promote entrepreneurship as such. So we have to change the thinking that it is a kind of super difficult thing, that it is something which is not welcome. So, but our narrative is built in such a way, I mean, we are therefore willing to enable them to carry out business as bank as a rule. So what kind of business you want to set up, what do you want to do? Maybe we can do the whole onboarding for you. Now 85% of our onboarding is going in real time for SMEs. So someone is sitting at the bank at the computer and really creating the account takes very little time for such small businesses. But they should be attached to one banking organization, because if we are to enable financing, we must see on which basis we are doing it. So we are doing well with the things that we can see in our companies, but the companies based on transactions, and it can have a kind of pre-approved formula, which is fast and safe. But what we don't have in the banking sector, in our business culture, is opening of all information bases by companies to other banks. That is, we should popularize PSD-based mechanisms. So to be open to what I'm doing, it's not a technical issue, it's a cultural issue, because technically it's easy. If I am to appeal or to encourage us all to something, is to build kind of culture of open data, because then we'll be able to provide value for micro and small companies. And that main
Yes, those are very important examples. One is related to data exchange. We've been fighting with it, with the different success. It's really hard to force regulators to be more open to data exchange, extended data exchange. So the second important question regarding the role of banks is that banks will not do this homework on their own. They need public partners. So a question to Mr. Stypułkowski will come later, but before that, Joanna Erdman, the question is to you. I have had some experience as a foundation regarding cooperation with entrepreneurs, especially micro enterprises, especially when it comes the cashless transactions, payments. From your experience, how being more open to cashless payments, is it really an impulse to for enterprises to develop, or do you see any barriers, and where, when it comes to the development of SMEs? Yes, thank you for this question. The foundation has been working for a couple of years with the entrepreneurs, and we will celebrate soon our 8th anniversary. So, well, what we can see is what is first, an egg or hen. So there are two types of entrepreneurs. There are some of them which are in the e-commerce, and then they start thinking whether Poland is enough, because e-commerce is something that allows us to have international payment, and the distribution network is available, is widely available in Europe. It can be easily steered. So often those entrepreneurs want to scale up their activity, which doesn't happen immediately. You know that many companies, the majority of companies, especially in the e-commerce, don't survive the first year of their existence. But if they do survive, then they scale up quite rapidly, and it's quite available. So payments are of help, because without payments with the e-commerce, it's not possible to deliver things. And when it comes to brick and mortar stores, there is another trend. Those are companies which were created years ago, so they are used to some schemes, and those micro companies are very numerous in Poland. As you know, there are many of them. On the one hand, it's something that gives impetus, but on the other hand, it's not that they are not innovative. They have some kind of innovation, but this is not technological innovation. So introducing some small corrections, improvements as document flow, accounting. Those are small things that make this burden weight less and allows for the entrepreneur to dedicate the time to some other activities. This also concerns payment. So for them to enter e-commerce, it's a huge barrier. So someone who has always had a brick and mortar store and who would like to scale up big presence in other countries, it's not a copy-paste thing, which means copy-pasting activity from brick and mortar store directly to e-commerce is not so obvious, because we need to think about new distribution schemes, about hiring new people. So we, as a foundation, we are trying to show them the best practices, and on the other hand, give them new solutions such as payment methods, payment gates, and on the other hand, to show them that it's not easy to transfer activity to e-commerce. And what they tell us, the entrepreneurs tell us in their survey, is that the ones who have new methods of payment, they have seen their turnover ramp up, and they got new customers. So being open to a new customer, being open to new opportunities related to technologies will allow the business to survive and to grow. The Polish Agency for Industry Development shows in its analysis that those who invest in innovation have a better performance. They value their efficiency higher. So I think the barrier is the lack of awareness, mentality, lack of knowledge, because small entrepreneurs are often family companies. They need to know everything about everything. And so we have this entrepreneurship academia that shows some parts of knowledge, but still such an entrepreneur needs time to use this knowledge, and the next step requires courage. So some educational work ahead of us. Wojtek, so from your perspective now, we already talked about, Mr. Kościński mentioned data integration, data exchange, something that we would need as a sector to better serve our customers. So what is your perspective? What technological solutions do you offer, or what do you plan to offer? And how do you see the need for integrating data and systems? It's a complex theme. So we in Poland, we tend not to boast our activity, but the banking sector has been always innovative, very secure. It's very modern as a sector. Mobile banking, Obywatel or Blik, this was created thanks to the banking sector, and it's those are very innovative solutions at international and European level, and they are also used namely by entrepreneurs. This is one thing. And the second thing, what about access to data and digitalization? Well, our approach is the following. Together with the scientific sector, we offer settlements and payments which are real-time, immediate payments. So we are working on that so that we have those express transfer, euro elixir transfers, which allows us to transfer money immediately in euro, namely. So when it comes to settlement and payment methods, there are no barriers for entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs may expand their activity. As regards access to data, well, something is missing. We could have had this access to national registers. The president of BIG talked about the exchange of data between the leasing sector and the banking sector. Yes, we are fighting for that. We would like to get it because leasing is a business which has great value. It's important to get access to this data, but we are not complaining. We are working on that. We want to have this information exchange system. Together with the PZB, we want to have this AML system to search for transactions. We will risk Oscarado transactions. So this is something that will show the risk of a given transaction and show it to the bank, and then the bank will talk about it with the client whether this risk is acceptable or not. So what is ahead of us? What is ahead of big, small companies, medium companies, is digitalization. Digitalization in Poland will force them to change their approach. I'm talking about KSF. I'm talking about mail delivery, which is now automated and done in a digital manner. So there will be more and more digital tools. So the positive thing is that they will need to jump into that directly. 90% of companies are reluctant to this kind of quick change but they will need to do it. They'll be obliged to do it. But on the other hand, it's about education. We've been talking about educating citizens in terms of security, but here I would like to appeal to you all that we talk about cybersecurity and educate about cybersecurity in SMEs. They don't have experts, they don't have money partners, so the smallest ones, they don't have it. So a big number of companies need to get digitalized, and this is 90% of companies. That's why the importance of education campaigns. Joanna, you may confirm that many companies don't know about the existence of some tools. Yes, we had a webinar. It's unbelievable. We did a webinar about KSEF, so in June this year, and this was really a webinar, which is the national system of registering invoices. So there was huge interest regarding this webinar. There is still a lot to be done. So if they don't know much about KSEF, so what they know about other security elements. So we need to work on that, keep working on that as a sector, but also as public administration and institutes. It's important that entrepreneurs get to know as much as possible. We know that citizens widely use this mobile banking system, but as when it comes to companies, there's still a lot to be done. When extending their activity abroad, this is what we are talking about. So e-commerce, this is something that helps. We don't need any mergers and takeovers. We just extend like that. There are no cultural differences. So here I get back to what was said is that the banking sector has such a solution. We have electronic identity confirmation and so on. We have all the electronic qualified signatures. We have electronic payments, and this allowed us to move on, and in the finance sector there is no dramatic situation, and I'm talking here both about individual clients and companies and e-commerce. In Poland, it's become more and more popular. So solutions regarding e-commerce are popular. There should be a European marketplace portal. Americans have it, the Chinese have it, so maybe it would be good to create such a solution. So let's concentrate on that. Let's think about it in a broad manner. Such an marketplace portal for Europe would be good. In Poland, we have solutions that would allow us to implement it. So e-commerce will keep growing, that's for sure. And this is something that allowed us, entrepreneurs, and our products to be present on European market. I'm not talking about other markets. It's not so easy to be there, but here in Europe we have a good delivery and payment system, including immediate payments, and it's up to us to create it, and on preferential conditions it should be offered to our entrepreneurs so that they can offer products at a larger scale in Europe. It seems that we have ready-made technological solutions that we can offer to our entrepreneurs. But what about using them? We talked about mental and educational barriers. So let's ask someone who's been working with business people. So identity. What challenges have you identified? Identity. What about the absorption of your technologies and the digital methods that you offer? Is it already a standard, or there's still a lot to be done? Thank you very much. Good morning. As a team, we offer solutions that allow to confirm someone's identity in person when they are present in person, but there's also remote identification when someone takes a picture of an ID or a passport, and an automatic system analyzes then whether this is a false identity or not. So we see that the absorption of such solution and need for such solution is growing. It's quite obvious. So a series of reasons are related to that. One of them is the better availability of such services and better competitiveness. Companies that have developed such solutions may reach customers from a given region or country, but also abroad, be present abroad. There is also a necessity to fulfill some legal requirements. More and more companies are obligated to confirm identity or create a digital identity, and thanks to some high quality solutions, such an identity may be confirmed. And so the number of such situations is growing due to changes in regulations, for example the AML regulations or other regulations regarding, for example, telco companies. They have been modified. This also applies to finance institutions and companies and other institutions. Another question is the growing number of attacks with the use of false identity, and something that is really something that is an extortion, and we need to limit the losses generated by that. When it comes to barriers, well, first of all, the main barrier for companies, this is the regulatory barrier. which means that we don't have clear standards, guidelines, what kind of solutions are good and what kind of solutions may be applied, which solutions are appropriate, and what does it mean to confirm identity in the digital way. Of course, there are such solutions as electronic signature, qualified signature. It addresses it somehow, but not enough. We have also the EID with a PIN code, but maybe 20% of people present in this room have received such a PIN code, and that's all. And if someone remembers it, would be an exception. So there are some solutions, but they are not applied by our citizens. Whereas solutions which are simple to be used, there are no guidelines how to use them. For example, saying that if you use this kind of solution in this sector in a given region or country, this is good, and here you need to add something else. So and all the burden is put on the company. The risk has been borne by the company. So we've been working with entrepreneurs for 10 years, but frankly speaking, we don't have the proper knowledge about all the binding regulations in all countries and sectors.
So it is a certain challenge. Another challenge is integration of these solutions into our processes. This challenge would be now addressed by us. So we planned a platform on which SMEs could form their account without specific technical integration, without necessity of having specialists and lawyers who could also comply with GRDP requirements, and such service could be launched. And there is no barrier in Poland or Europe and the world. There is absorption and use of it by ultimate clients is good. Okay, regulation finally has appeared. I thought you would say regulation is not a barrier, but we are on the deregulation wave, so maybe we would be able to unify such processes. So now, finally, President Stypułkowski, last but not least, because he is a representative of a public institution, the only one. We were to have a representative of the National Fund for Research and Development, but Madam President could not join us for some personal reasons, and that's why I will ask President Stypułkowski to look at it from the public perspective. So as for BGK perspective, financing innovation is one of the pillars of your strategy. So how BGK is going to support technological innovation? Are there any areas that would like to develop in particular? Do you perceive yourself as a partner or the missing link for commercial banks to support them in mitigating risk with regard to financing? Thank you very much for inviting me to the conference and for a very difficult question, and I'm just thinking how to answer it. But let me now take into account SMEs and their needs in my answer. Yes, I do confirm our major strategic pillar in BGK strategy is innovative, dynamic, and competitive economy. So we committed ourselves to developing an innovative economy. In SMEs, the situation is as Madam President Joanna has already described it. So many enterprises still face implementing innovative solutions, but the solutions that we would dream of that would give us a competitive advantage, is not yet tackled by them. So I think the innovation from digitization sphere could be best implemented. They would improve the management process of client relationships, e-commerce, and also reserves, etc. So here we have two important solutions. From the banks and entrepreneurs' perspectives, our guarantee Business Max Plus. It's a guarantee that we give through commercial banks with which we cooperate, the guarantee up to 2.5 million euros. That is 10 million Polish zlotys, which I guess would fulfill the needs, investment needs of micro and SMEs in 70 more or less percent. So it's a very interesting instrument because when they implement innovative solutions, they can use a premium. So the part of interest rates or capital part could be forgiven, and there's no burden on cash flow. And the assets could be used for other investments. The only challenge in that instrument is that because of EU regulations, there is quite a big file of documents that they have to confirm that they have read it. But we started the discussion with Madam Agnieszka on how to really simplify it. And I do invite you to promote the project together with us, and a good instrument for that is an instrument prepared with our partners, PFR, a kind of maturity test, digital maturity test. On PFR websites, you can say a questionnaire, and the entrepreneur is asked many questions to assess his digital competences and the areas where digital solutions would be best for him, like automation of storage processes or logistical systems or e-commerce or CRM, and he would get specific recommendations. And for such solutions, you can get credit facility that would be guaranteed under Business Max Plus for up to 80% of capital. And we already gave such guarantees for 1.5 billion zlotys, mobilizing 2.5 billion zlotys in the form of investment money. So it seems this is an interesting instrument, and it's becoming more and more popular, especially for SMEs. But there is something that we forget when we think about innovation, which are to really capture the world and to be a product wanted worldwide. So as a world, such things are financed through the capital market, through venture capital or private equity, or through orders steered publicly, that is public procurement. What I mean here, mostly in the defense sector or infrastructure sectors where the state is a big ordering party, for example. So BGK really faces the two streams here. So under capital streams, we have Vinci investment company where we implement our own private equity program, so invest directly. We also give financing to PFR group, which invests as venture capital. And in two models, we are trying to mobilize private capital as far as possible. So we say you are a venture capital fund, you would like to get financing from us for 10 million euros, so please bring another 10 million from private investors, zloty per 1 zloty. So we want this capital to mobilize private investment capital, and it's going on also through EU public money. So we have new concept funds of funds. That's funds that create sub-investment funds. And we will have several billion zlotys for that goal. And thanks to that, private equity and venture capital market would be formed. It would be enough to fund the things that are financed by the capital market. And here, a great challenge is education of SMEs. But for them, a good direction of development, if they think about exports, as regards implementation of innovation, is the private equity. Another thing, I mean, a public procurement. What is important here is that now we get into the stage of mega investment and a big investment cycle, in energy, in defense, in infrastructure. So all these investments in all these sectors are financed under the RRF, and half of it is matched by BGK. Only for energy transformation, we contracted almost 40 billion zlotys. It is 20% of the needs for the next years, and the public procurement needs generated by big energy companies that we should allocate a lot of funds for Polish companies that represent Polish technological thought, and we work on it so that they should be the ordering parties, and they would give a lot of space for the development of such companies. We started also discussions with banking insurance sector to ensure Polish providers contracting financing and guarantee instruments that would enable them to take part in these mega investments. Really great news indeed. And what we miss is capital financing on a larger scale. It is still the banking sector which is the biggest provider of financing, but as has already been mentioned, as regards startups and technological companies, it's difficult for regulation reasons and because of the risk. Hence we need additional forms of financing, and we have also the funding that provides the financing to the already functioning enterprises, so that they should be modernized and they should invest in technologies. As President mentioned, public programs that we have. A question now to representatives of the banks. Madam President Agnieszka, do you see kind of room for further joint initiatives with public partners such as BGK, PFR, and which programs and public support would you like to have, looking at it from the perspective of what we have on the market now? The question is, the answer is brief. Certainly. So yes, of course. First, we do cooperate, and we like such cooperation, especially cooperation with BGK, with this technological credit, with ensuring de minimis rules. It's an important part of the ecosystem of financing SMEs. What we are missing is the line for more innovative companies. I mean, guarantees, because we have no problems with the liquidity looking at the situation in the sector, but all guarantee instruments are definitely something that we need, definitely. So multilateral institutions make various proposals, because that relates to guarantee lines in Poland, and we may coordinate it even more with the public sphere, and we are open to that. What I'd like to say is also something about cooperation with EU funds and distribution of EU funds, because paradoxically these advisors for SMEs at the bank is a very important person who does not only sell things or sell credit facilities, but in general it's kind of facilitator and to some extent guide in the world of very complex finance, where that is what people can get, at which prices, where prices are lower, which programs are offered. We are trying to do that at BNP Paribas, or through core funds. We show which programs could be used, but here I'd like to appeal for greater integration of these small regional programs, because we see that the funds are distributed all across Poland, and we could get integrated with the central funds. A lot of money is available for SMEs in regional funds, but they are not coordinated at all. It's difficult for us, therefore, to coordinate criteria, and it's difficult for us as a bank, but we are ready to facilitate such help in as regards bigger access to regional grants. Now, President Kościński, continuing this banking theme, how does it look from your perspective? And what do we need to more effectively support the development of exports and the development of technological investments? Do we need some new partnerships or new instruments? Honestly, I would not say anything more than Agnieszka has already said, because, well, the question is how to really provide the knowledge to those companies that have little knowledge of that. It seems relatively simple, but then we have kind of everyday barriers like all these payment themes. They're relatively simple, but you must help a small company in it. But the major barrier is the lack of capital or the lack of knowledge of how the capital should be provided to small companies. That's a major barrier to the development of these small companies. Because there is quite a lot of companies with good ideas, but scalability of that is a completely different topic. So let me get back to what has been said already. So it's about facilitation more. And as for the themes, I'm adding capital to companies being on a higher risk than the banks is key if you want to have upscaling of our whole economic infrastructure. And I have no other idea. The bank is a kind of simple player, whether represented by Agnieszka or myself. We are roughly able to make a very good infrastructure so that most of the companies would really would have a fine position there. But which kind of support from public partners would you expect as a banking sector? I wouldn't say that we would expect any support here, because it would go beyond our role. But it's not our role, because if 9 out of 10 ideas are not good, and the companies would wind up. So we have to get a gigantic margin so that it makes sense. So, well, capital funds have different settlements. So if you want to boost the smaller companies, we should have public partnership facilitated by the banks. Okay, so I understand that a kind of form of partnership in which banks would be included in the process, but would not be the operator that would take that risk on themselves. I mean, they would be partners because we have infrastructure to do that, but we would not take the risk for all the reasons I've already mentioned. There is the infrastructure that is up to the decision of the state, all its let's say bodies, to what extent we want to develop small business. Also, take advantage of the fact that the capital benefit, that is the value benefit, would be somehow distributed. Okay, can I say something different, let's say? What Marcin is saying is that SMEs as such have no problems getting financing for the things which are bankable. What we see is the trend where the need for credit facilities among SMEs is going down. There is leasing, there is the current account, there are very few credit facilities. What SMEs really need is capital. And unless we table it and say, okay, the major problem barrier to scalability is capital, we would not be able to address the problem. Banks as such could be distributor of capital, but we would not be the provider of capital, and therefore all facilitation that would enable us to easily distribute public funds indeed are desired by us. And if we ask, a homogeneous form of distribution would be appreciated by us. I guess that's what we really mean. Okay, the discussion is really in full swing, so please say something. Yes, I do accept our recommendations within the framework of broadly understood public administration, because it's not BGK who is responsible for really forming all programs, formats, data, etc. So I do really support all these things, that everything should be simplified and more friendly to the user. And we understand, we all understand that the capital market must develop, and businesses to have innovation need capital. And I've mentioned that already, because we still remember mega investments, and that as regards these mega investments, we can on that basis develop Polish innovative companies by providing them with guarantees. But let's remember that in commercial banks, as far as I remember, there is 2 trillion zlotys of funds of Polish citizens that are on accounts with kind of zero interest rate or minimum interest rate. Not only in Poland, Europe has the same challenge. The general propensity to risk of not only companies but also citizens is at a very low level. It is important that part of those savings citizens should convert into investment instruments. And here we face 2 challenges. Today we have investment processes, and in onboarding processes we encourage clients to invest some part of funds in various funds. What kind of funds are these? Those that invest on international stocks. They don't really invest in the development of Poland's innovative economy. So it would be good to have a new class of assets here. We should appeal for that to our regulators. Regulators introduces such class of assets and appropriate regulations, so part of savings could be converted safely into those. And banks have a super infrastructure really for persuading clients that in each model, systematic investment in high risk on capital markets gives a better rate of return, at least 2.5, than instruments based on debt, that is bonds, for example, in that case. So that's an important aspect. If I may add, as regards SMEs perspective, I mean, we've been discussing the possibility of getting capital, but the question was how public institutions may help Polish businesses to scale up. And well, based on the discussions with SMEs, we see that there is a great expectation that Polish public institutions and Polish administration will be more willing to choose Polish innovative solutions. We have here great deficiencies. We are also operating in this cluster of Cyber Poland, cluster associates companies operating in cybersecurity. The problem was mentioned by them, and there are many other issues related to that. For example, what are the causes of that, etc. Because if someone is to take a decision and later on he or she is to be made accountable for that, and there are many reports, international reports, and it's therefore easier to select kind of international company than the Polish company that has even an optimum solution but has no such reputation. But implementing a kind of solution or the sale of a product or service, for example, to such a client like public institution is also a very important point of departure for other foreign markets. One more thing, let me add something with respect to education. Sorry for that now. What is important is a kind of ecosystem plus some standardization. Has already been said that even at the level of public institutions, everything should be looked at through the eyes of, let's say, clients. And if we look, for example, at NGOs, the Warsaw Council and we discuss our fantastic solutions, ideas, but how should an entrepreneur learn about it? Because they should go there to all these places to get acquainted with that, to understand it. So we should have kind of place where all this information should be sort of gathered. We have, of course, the website gov.pl that communicates with entrepreneurs, and I think the ministry diagnosed what we can do and what we can improve, plus an educational element, so that all the new things that entrepreneurs should adopt, like XEF mentioned by Wojtek, all these things should be in one place, so that they can learn from that, not from their mistakes. But of course, training should be also provided. And finally, sources of financing. Such information is very fragmented. I have to check it separately for EU funds, national funds, PFR funds, municipality funds, and then I know which funds I can use. So Wojtek, you mentioned e-commerce, but let's do kind of platforms of information for our micro entrepreneurs, where our products for entrepreneurs could be seen and used by businesses. It's my idea. We should try it, I think, but if we don't, we won't be successful. So in that context, do you think that we need a kind of the national strategy of digitalization of SMEs? And if so, how should it look? Should it contain some unified mechanisms to be implemented by SMEs, plus some education activity? How do you look at it? I don't know if you should call it a strategy, but the first thing that really appeared last year is the strategy for digitalization of Poland as such. It's the first strategy like that appeared in Poland, and it expresses the level of our ambitions with regard to digitalization. EU has been measuring digitalization levels in various aspects, like digital offices, public offices, but also digitalization of consumers and entrepreneurs. And here the situation is worse, and we have some shortages. And should we cope individually with that? Should it be done by commercial institutions, or should we use such tools as in the case of foundations, that we would like to move forward much faster and we invest and know why we are investing? It seems to me that our ambitions should be set at the level of the Ministry of Economic Development, which is now the partner for SMEs, and later on how we will implement it is important. I mean, and that would be the next step. So for me, public-private partnership is much more efficient in implementations as compared to what we are doing at the level of administration or central government. So if a strategy is formulated and including that ambition, so we could involve into the strategy banks, NGOs, or commercial institutions that might provide entrepreneurs with such services in a unified, repeatable, and tested way, using some tools, because it has been said that we have a digital signature, digital ID, but not everybody knows how to use it, and many entrepreneurs have never used an electronic signature, and there is a group of such tools. Once we wanted to build a profile of a digital entrepreneur, what they should have at a minimum level. And I think at the ministerial level we should have also developed such a profile, like email address, micro website, or my internet business card, or my bookkeeping at a basic level, maybe kind of e-commerce plug for digital payments, and some other digital solutions from which entrepreneur could start their activity. Plus, of course, the internet account The banks are trying to do that, but they are doing it for another reason, because they know that if the entrepreneur starts its activity, gets a product, then it's difficult for them to abandon such institution that offer them to that. So, but we should think about a kind of standard, this equipment for all entrepreneurs, plus the cyber package. So let's start with small, potentially things, and then step by step we could develop. Now a question to President Szajda. How important would it be for our entrepreneurs to the implementation of biometry ID, automation of KFC? Are we ready for IDAS 2 among entrepreneurs?
Została przyjęta.
Yes, this regulation IDAS 2.0 was adopted. Apart from modifying this kind of trust services, it introduced the identity portfolio. And just briefly about the identity portfolio, the concept is that every country in the EU will have at least one notified identity portfolio, which will be accepted, which will have to be accepted by institutions in other countries. Apart from information about the person itself, the portfolio will present some other features, such as information which confirms some professional skills, driving license, and so on. Anything that is reliable information, and then it can be transferred to a given institution. So what is the main challenge from the entrepreneur's point of view is that as of December 2027, all the obliged institutions will be obliged to accept this wallet. Well, this is an analogical situation because now some companies are obliged to accept electronic ID. They have to identify someone based on this ID. So the same if someone has this notified digital wallet from December 2027, we will be obliged to identify such a person based on this wallet and accept all the features presented there. Just briefly about the wallet, because there are many other details. We need to remember that the market of this kind of trusted services is growing, so maybe Wojciech could talk a bit more about trust services. So it's about creating a new market of services. We still don't know what it will look like, who will be responsible for what. It's being created. It's a very interesting subject. From the point of view of an average entrepreneur that functions outside of the ecosystem, I think what is the most important is that wallets will function. Those will be cross-border wallets. This is the intention. Well, the question is whether we are ready, technologically ready for that. Wallet are not ready yet, first of all. So it's being created, but looking at how M-Obywatel was accepted and how it's used, I don't think we need to worry. It will be possible to create this wallet, IDAS wallet, within M-Obywatel, I guess, in Poland. So as we are supposed to talk about the exports and supporting exports. So Wojciech, a question to you about exports. Do you see as KIR a possibility of integrating ourselves with some other exports platforms? Will this increase our competitiveness? How it should be done? Of course, we should do it. And to sum up what was said, those wallets For those who want to scale up, it's a perfect solution because this will open the remote services and in Europe. The same was applied to IDs. IDs used to be on paper. Now it can be done, the iWallet can be done remotely for 380 million Europeans. And so it will be obligatory to have such a wallet. So for someone who wants to scale up, it's a beautiful solution. Now about integration. We have a series of systems that we are integrated in, and we created solutions resulting from some regulations, verification of the recipient, and creating fast payment platforms. So there is a need for those settlements to be done quickly, and we have such tools, yes. The currency now. As I said, the currency is not important because we have the same solution for euros and Polish zlotys, so there is no difference in settlement time. So how quick payments are and settlements are, this is very innovative, and there are many solutions available, so those mechanisms function well. So no worries if entrepreneurs want to scale up, if they want to be present in Europe or elsewhere. I think that there is nothing to be worried about because the banking sector is here. We are one of the first innovators here. We are the leaders, so no problem. As I said, there are future solutions regarding payments, immediate payments, and other kind of solutions such as wallets that are being introduced, and other solutions. So on the one hand, we have regulatory requirements, and based on those requirements we create solutions, and thanks to those solutions it will be possible to offer products and services outside the European Union, and banks are here, they are ready, no problem. Getting back to what was said, yes, I agree with the information portal. There should be a commercial and information and business portal. SMEs don't have much time to search for information. They have a lot of work. That's why we need such a portal with all the information, what is available for my company. This is a good thing. For example, there would be this AI tool used on this portal. Yes, AI would answer questions quickly. We talk about AI models. This is one of the practical examples of the use of AI, because AI may collect quickly some information and answer questions. So there will be an AI agent, and that would support SMEs. I think that it's not rocket science. It can be done quickly, and it's possible to be done quite quickly. To wrap it all up, as we are talking about financing exports, what's BGK solution? What instruments are offered to companies that would like to scale up, go abroad? First of all, we'd encourage you to go abroad. Companies that we support are now present in 98 countries. As we know, so economic slowdown or stagnation in Western Europe, it's an opportunity to look for other promising markets. For example, Africa is really trendy. Many Polish entrepreneurs look with hope at Africa, and I can say that Polish companies have the same support from our institutions as our partners from Western Europe. We offer the financing of letter of credit, for example, and so on, so that we can attenuate the risk, mitigate the risk for companies who want to invest. For those who want to invest, we have this governmental program that supports exports. We allow for the acquisition of foreign companies if there is a need to extend the production. It's also possible, but there are also credit lines which are available to our entrepreneurs. For example, in Namibia, we financed the purchase of for our Namibian partners the whole cooling line for milk, several dozens of millions of euros. So thanks to that, we have managed to improve all the statistics. So the mechanism was that we gave a loan to the Namibian bank, and they bought some production line from a Polish producer. The transaction was a success. So we managed to export Polish technology there, and they had a financing at all stages, and we supported their activity. So we see that if we go out from the comfort zone, we decide to go abroad, then all the available instruments are available. They are here within BGK. KUKE gives guarantee. The Polish Trade Development Agency also gives such instruments. On the 7th of July, our institutions created the initiative called Team Poland. So this is for entrepreneurs who would like to export, and that they get all the information, a one-stop shop where there is information about all the instruments, so that they don't waste time looking for knowledge, and they have time to grow their businesses. So this project is already available online. For entrepreneurs, well, let's get out of the comfort zone. Not only EU, Africa, Asia, those are areas where our companies have great successes. So this was a great conclusion of the farmer panel. We've run out of time. So ladies and gentlemen, let's not be afraid of investing, of innovating. Innovation may help a lot. Let's not be afraid of using public funds, and our institutions will guide us on our path. So please invest in innovation, because this will give us competitive edge. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Bardzo serdecznie dziękuję pani.
Thank you, President Agnieszka Wachnicka, the Vice CEO of the PSB Group Association. Thanks to all the panelists. And now it's time for some informal exchange. We'll have a lunch break. Technical detail due to limited time framework and our last debate about public programs and the role of partnerships in experts. So we'll have only 30 minutes. We reconvene at 2:45. At 2:45, it's worth taking part in this debate. Thank you very much.